Hey there, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do a second basic music theory lesson. This is starting right where we left off in the last lesson. If you didn't see that, you might want to subscribe and go back and take a look at that. The first lesson was on the C major scale, which is very basic. This is going to be basic as well. So if you know any music theory at all, you might want to skip to my other lessons, which you might find a little bit more interesting. This is really for beginners, and you really need to see the first video in this playlist before you watch this one. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. So in my last lesson, I went over C major, which everybody knows how that sounds. It's do, re, mi. It's got a particular sound to it, a particular feel. In my last lesson, I explained why it is that that major scale has that particular feel and sound and what makes it special and how to put it together and understand it. There is another scale called a minor scale that goes hand in hand with major scales. And today I'm going to talk about A minor, how to put that together, and what it sounds like and what you can do with it. C major and A minor go hand in hand. They're related to each other. All the notes in A minor are exactly the same as in C major. So C major is comprised of all the white notes on the piano, and so is A minor. What makes them different is the note you start on. So if you're playing something in C major, you're going to be focusing on that first note, which is the root note of the scale, which is C. And when you're playing that scale, as long as you come back to that C, people can hear it as a major scale. It just feels that way. And that's because of the intervals between each note. So when you're playing major, C major, say you're going, your ear just wants to hear that note. If you stopped and you stayed right there, it wouldn't feel right. So your brain is already accustomed to hearing and understanding what a major scale is. So if you take those same notes and you start instead on the A, you're going to get a different pattern because they're in a different order. And if you focus on that A, you're going to get a different feeling. A lot of people say that minor scales sound sadder and major scales sound happier. So they use them for sad songs, they'll use a minor scale. For happy songs, they'll use major scales. But that's not really a rule exactly. It's just, generally something to keep in mind. But there are thousands of very sad songs in major scales, and there are a lot of happy songs in minor scales too. So, but that's just kind of something to keep in mind that'll help you separate the two. So if I start on A and I just play that through, you'll be able to hear how it sounds and feels a little bit more down, a little sadder than a major scale. So let's write out those notes and we'll figure out how to put that together. Okay. So starting from that A right there, which is the first A above middle C, which I talked about in my last video. You've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A. Okay, so once you get here, you're repeating, and it's the exact same notes in the same order. And these are an octave apart. So you've got A's here, you got one there, you got one there, you got a few down that way. Let's now look at the intervals between them, which is going to be what makes up this scale, what makes this scale a minor scale. Okay, so starting from the A, you've got a half step from here to the next note, which is to the right here. From this to the next note to the right, you've got a half step. So from A to B, you've got a whole step. You've got two half steps, which makes a whole step. So let's write that down. That's a whole step. From B to C, there's no black note here, but it's still a half step, and it's a naturally occurring half step. There's no notes in between B and C in Western music. So I'll write that down as a half step. Then from C to D, you've got a whole step. From D to E, you've got a whole step. And then from E to F, you've got another naturally occurring half step. From F to G, you've got a whole step. And then from G to A, you've got a whole step. So there's your pattern. This pattern of intervals between these notes is what makes this a minor scale and what makes it special. If it were not for these intervals, this wouldn't have that sound and it wouldn't be a minor key, a minor scale. So you can almost hear the differences also. I'm going to circle these here because these are your half steps. Right here. Okay, you can almost hear that little gap sounds shorter. Those notes sound a little closer together. Show you what I mean. There's your half step. There's your whole step. I don't know if you can hear it, but it feels like they're closer together because they are. So once you get to the next A, you just repeat the pattern, okay? So here it is again. Now, if we assign numbers to each one of these notes, like we did in the last video for C major, starting at the root note, this is the root note, the very first note, that's going to be 1. Then B will be 2. C will be 3, D will be 4, E will be 5, F will be 6, G will be 7, A will be 8. That interval there between the same notes, that's an octave. And if you notice, that's an 8, like octagon or octopus has 8 legs. That's why that's an octave, because of those steps there. So what you'll notice too, if you think about the numbers, you can make this more generic for you. And as long as you're starting on A and you're considering that 1, your pattern of half steps and whole steps, the gap between each interval throughout the whole scale, you're going to find that they're all whole steps except for between 2 and 3. And between 5 and 6. Okay, these right here are your half steps. So if you memorize this pattern, just memorize that there's a half step between 2 and 3 and a half step between 5 and 6. If you ever forget that, you can just look at the piano and you can visually see those half steps because they're the only places on the piano where there's no black key in between the white keys, because it's a naturally occurring half step. So when you start here on the A, you got 2 and 3 is right there, okay, and 5 and 6 are right here. Okay, so with A minor having all of the same notes that you have in C major, these two scales are like best friends, in a way. They're related, and if you know one, you know the other. So you really almost need to just remember C major, and then just remember that to get the minor scale that is related to C major, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to go down right there to get to the A. So if you're in a major scale, C major, and you want to find out what the related or relative minor key is for that major scale, what you do is you go down, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1.5 steps, okay? So you've got a half step and a half step, which makes a whole step, and then one more half step. You've got 1.5 steps. So if you just count down, 1, 2, 3, there's A right there. So in any major scale, any key, if you want to find the relative minor, you just count down 1.5 steps from the root note, and there is the root note for the relative minor scale, in this case A minor. So I'd recommend just playing around with the scale. Let your ears really hear the difference between A minor and C major, and you need to just remember that the thing that makes this the minor scale is this particular pattern of intervals between these notes. So when you're playing an A minor, you need to focus on the A as being the root note, as being your starting off point and usually your ending point. So if you were going to start a song in A minor, in most cases, you'd start on the A, and if you had a melody, notice I ended on the A, and you can hear that sadness to it. And you can hear how your ear wants to go back to that A, that root note, and you're getting the feel that this is A minor, that it's not C major, because I'm focusing on that A, which lets your ear hear that pattern. I recommend playing around with that. I wouldn't worry too much about correct finger positioning right now. I would worry more about being able to understand this pattern and understand how it relates to C major. So that's it for A minor. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm going to be posting more videos very soon that start right up where we left off today. And have a good one. Catch you later.